And go.
Hi, I'm Maya Hernandez, and this is my informative speech, and these are my two participants. Thank you. Okay, anyway. Could you survive on a remote island for 30 days? Could you do it for $1 million? Well, I have the show for you. Today, I will be explaining the format of Survivor. With the newest season set to release in February, it's the perfect time to get started on the series. Now, I will admit 49 seasons is a lot, and especially for new fans, but as long as you know the format, then you can start with any season. Take it from me, I started with season 37 because I was really fascinated with Mike White. At first, it was really confusing and overwhelming, but like I did some outside research and it made the show a lot more enjoyable. Since then, it's become one of my favorite competitive shows. So first, I will start by explaining the division of the tribes, and then I will explain the tribal merge, and then lastly, I will go over the final tribal council. So let's begin with the tribes. So the first stage is the division of the tribes, and that's when all the players are split into two tribes, and typically two, it can be more than two. And usually, like, each season has an overall theme, and sometimes it's introduced at the beginning of the season, and sometimes it's just implied. And then, so like for season 37, they were split into either David versus Goliath. And so David was like the underdogs, and then Goliath was were the overachievers, and it was about like grit versus natural instincts, right? And then usually the tribes will compete through various challenges, and they're basically just obstacle courses, testing their physical and mental strengths. And tribes usually compete for food or immunity or like equipment, and then the losing team has to go to this thing called the tribal council, which is where they vote to eliminate a player, and then each player has a lit torch which represents their lives in the game, and then the host starts a conversation about recent events, alliances, intentions, and then players will privately vote, and then before the votes are read, the players will reveal if they have any hidden immunities that they found throughout the game, and then that means that they are safe from elimination and they for the ceremony. And then the votes are read and the players eliminated. And then now we'll get into the second half, which is the tribal merge. And then the tribal merge is where at this point it's like halfway through the game or the season, and the remaining players of each tribe will form into one tribe, and then they'll create like a new name and flag and everything. And then so because there are fewer players now, it's now about individual challenges, which is basically the same as the tribal challenges, but like it's a lot more about like a mental thing, and like they require a lot more concentration, you know? And sorry, please excuse me. And then now everybody gets to go to tribal council, yay! Except like this time, now they're also like incorporating something called juries, which basically like, okay, anybody eliminated post merge, they are now onto the jury, who then go to choose who the ultimate winner of Survivor is. And then now let's cover the final tribal council. So the final part is the tribal council, where the final tribal council, where the jury votes on who wins, and this is when the final three players plead their case and say why they deserve to win. And it's structured like an open conversation mediated by the host. And then the jurors will debate, question, and confront the finalists on their gameplay strategies and social bonds, and then the juries will cast their votes, which the host will read and declare someone as the season's winner. And then these all make up the format of Survivor. So first I discussed the division of the tribes and the team challenges, and then I talked about the merge and the jury and individual challenges, and then finally I explained the final tribal council. If you ever have an interest in Survivor, now you know the basic format to watch any season. So do you think you could win Survivor?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.